The town that I just came from is so much smaller. Would you mind helping me find it?
Well, I mean, are you sure you want to hang out with me?
Why wouldn't I?
I mean, I'm not the most popular girl in school. I wouldn't want to ruin your reputation or anything.
Are you just gonna let that plebe cut in line?
Hey, who do you think you are? You know, ordering a drink before me doesn't make you look less trashy than you do right now. Come on.
Best burn ever. So cool.
Wow, you two are really alike.
I'm not like her.
She's not.
I'm serious. Well, until you let this whole popularity thing get to you. I mean, we can go back to the way things used to be.
But I just came here because I really need your help. I came here to apologize.
Wait, you only want to apologize because you need my help?
No, that came out really wrong. See, I just got so wrapped up in being popular. I was just so mean.
Just come in.
What are you doing here?
Well, I came to apologize to Avi.
I find that hard to believe.
If you guys just stopped caring about what other people think. I mean, being popular doesn't really matter.
You're right, Avi. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, Avi.
I forgive you. Only if you promise to not let anything get in the way of our friendship again. Deal?
Deal.
What are you guys doing? I just feel so awful. I didn't want to make it up to you.
Me too.
Episode 3 of Popular unfolds with a quiet intensity that contrasts sharply with the social spectacle of the previous episodes, opening on an image of Sabina standing alone on Avi's front porch, her hesitation and visible nerves signaling a turning point where performance gives way to accountability. And this moment immediately situates the episode within an emotional register defined by vulnerability rather than dominance, inviting the viewer to witness what it looks like when a young woman chooses to confront the consequences of her own behavior. Sabina's pause before ringing the doorbell functions as a visual metaphor for self-reckoning, capturing the internal conflict familiar to many queer women who have learned to armor themselves against rejection by aligning with power rather than truth, only to discover that such armor eventually becomes isolating. When Avi opens the door, her surprise is layered with uncertainty, rather than resentment, and the scene resists melodrama by allowing silence and body language to communicate the complexity of their shared history. Sabina's apology is notably understated, lacking grand gestures or justifications, which underscores the episode's commitment to portraying repair as an act of humility rather than persuasion. And Avi's decision to invite her inside reflects a capacity for generosity that has been quietly consistent throughout the series. The emotional stakes deepen when Sabina discovers that Jillian is already present, a revelation that momentarily reintroduces the tension of past conflicts. Yet the narrative quickly reframes this encounter, not as a confrontation, but as an opportunity for collective accountability. Jillian's apology to Avi mirrors Sabina's in its simplicity, signaling a shared recognition that their previous pursuit of status came at the cost of empathy, and the episode carefully avoids framing these apologies as transactional, instead emphasizing that remorse does not guarantee forgiveness, but opens the possibility for it. Avi's choice to forgive both women is not depicted as moral obligation but as an exercise of agency, reinforcing the idea that forgiveness, like intimacy, must be freely given to retain its meaning. The context of graduation, with all three women standing on the threshold between adolescence and adulthood, adds symbolic weight to this reconciliation, positioning it as part of a broader transition towards self-understanding and ethical maturity. Avi's agreement to help Sabina and Jillian with their makeup for graduation photos operates on multiple levels, functioning as a practical gesture of goodwill, while also reclaiming her creative skill as a source of connection rather than marginalization. And the scene subtly critiques how talents associated with femininity are often undervalued until they serve dominant narratives of beauty and success. As Avi works, the dynamic among the three shifts from tension to mutual attentiveness, and the physical closeness required by the task becomes a site of emotional recalibration rather than spectacle, emphasizing trust and care over display. Sabina and Jillian's genuine admiration for Avi's work evolves into a broader recognition of her worth, and when they tell her that she is more beautiful than she realizes, the moment resonates as an affirmation long withheld, highlighting how queer women are frequently taught to doubt their desirability when they do not conform to narrow standards of popularity or visibility. This affirmation is not framed as romantic conquest, but as recognition, a crucial distinction that aligns with the episode's insistence on treating lesbian connection as emotionally substantive rather than performative. The subsequent deepening of intimacy among the three is conveyed through tone and implication rather than explicit depiction, maintaining a safe-for-work sensibility that foregrounds emotional convergence over physical detail, and this restraint allows the scene to function as a meditation on trust, reciprocity, and chosen family rather than a provocation. Sabina's journey across the 3 episodes finds a momentary resolution here, as she confronts the hollowness of the validation she sought through popularity and begins to articulate a different understanding of belonging, one rooted in mutual care rather than hierarchy. Jillian's transformation, while less extensively explored, is nonetheless significant, as her willingness to apologize and share space without asserting control suggests an emerging awareness of how power can distort connection, particularly within queer communities where limited visibility can intensify competition. Avi's role as the emotional anchor of the narrative reaches its fullest expression in this episode, not because she is morally flawless, but because she consistently chooses authenticity over safety, offering a model of queer resilience that does not rely on dominance or withdrawal. The episode's emphasis on apology and forgiveness speaks to broader themes of repair within women's relationships, challenging cultural narratives that pit women against each other by illustrating how harm can be acknowledged without perpetuating cycles of punishment. This approach resonates deeply with lesbian viewers who recognize how often their relationships are scrutinized for failure, while heterosexual counterparts are granted complexity and grace. And by insisting on emotional nuance, the series contributes to a more equitable narrative landscape. The triadic dynamic that emerges at the episode's conclusion is treated not as a novelty, but as an extension of the characters' emotional trajectories, reinforcing the idea that queer intimacy can take many forms without losing its ethical grounding. Importantly, the episode situates this intimacy within a context of consent, reflection, and mutual respect, countering stereotypes that frame lesbian desire as either invisible or excessive, and instead presenting it as thoughtful and self-aware. The lesson articulated at the episode's end, that there are more important things than being popular, risks sounding didactic, yet the narrative earns this sentiment by embedding it within lived experience rather than moral pronouncement, showing how the pursuit of status often masks a deeper hunger for recognition. The porch, the living room, and the makeup table function as intimate domestic spaces where public hierarchies dissolve, underscoring the importance of private environments in fostering honest connection among women. From a broader perspective, Episode 3 invites reflection on how social conditioning teaches women to equate worth with external approval, and how unlearning this lesson requires not only self-awareness, but the courage to repair damaged relationships. The series' focus on interior lives aligns it with a tradition of queer storytelling that values emotional truth over spectacle, resisting the urge to sensationalize reconciliation, and instead honoring its quiet difficulty. The presence of graduation as a temporal marker reinforces the theme of becoming, suggesting that visibility and authenticity are not endpoints, but ongoing practices shaped by choice and vulnerability. By centering forgiveness without erasing accountability, the episode models a form of relational ethics that is particularly resonant for LGBTQ+ women, who often navigate communities where personal and social identities are tightly intertwined. The narrative's refusal to punish Sabina and Jillian indefinitely for their mistakes reflects a compassionate understanding of how survival strategies can harden into harmful behaviors under pressure, especially for young queer women negotiating limited pathways to belonging. Avi's capacity to welcome them back into her space does not negate her earlier pain, but reframes it as part of a larger process of self-assertion, illustrating that strength can manifest as openness rather than defense. In depicting a resolution grounded in mutual recognition, Episode 3 challenges societal discomfort with women's love for one another by presenting it as a source of growth rather than threat, countering both erasure and sensationalism through its measured tone. The episode also speaks to women beyond queer specificity, capturing universal experiences of longing for acceptance, fear of vulnerability, and the exhaustion that accompanies constant self-monitoring. And by situating these experiences within a lesbian narrative, it affirms their legitimacy and depth. The symbolic act of preparing for graduation photographs encapsulates the tension between image and reality, reminding viewers that while appearances are curated, the emotional truths beneath them are what endure. As Sabina, Jillian, and Avi stand on the cusp of adulthood, their shared moment of connection suggests a future where relationships are chosen with intention rather than dictated by status, offering a hopeful vision without denying the work required to sustain it. Episode 3 thus functions as both a narrative resolution and a thematic statement, asserting that authenticity, care, and accountability form the foundation of meaningful connection, and that becoming visible to oneself is inseparable from learning how to truly see others. By treating lesbian relationships as sites of ethical and emotional significance, Popular positions itself as a serious cultural text that contributes to ongoing conversations about visibility, resilience, and the quiet power of women-centered bonds in a world still learning how to honor them. The episode's deliberate pacing allows each emotional beat to land with clarity, reinforcing the idea that healing is not instantaneous but accumulative, built through small choices that prioritize honesty over image management. And this pacing mirrors the lived experience of many queer women who find that self-acceptance unfolds unevenly, shaped by moments of courage interspersed with doubt. The absence of overt antagonism in this episode is striking, as conflict is resolved not through triumph, but through dialogue, presence, and shared vulnerability, suggesting an alternative model of storytelling where resolution does not require a victor, only understanding. In positioning Avi as both caretaker and equal, the narrative complicates traditional dynamics of mentorship, showing how guidance can coexist with reciprocity, and how those often relegated to supportive roles possess their own desires and agency. This complexity is particularly meaningful within lesbian representation, where characters are frequently flattened into archetypes, and by allowing Avi depth without demanding self-sacrifice, the episode honors her interiority. Sabina's apology gains additional resonance when viewed against her earlier transformation, as it reveals that confidence derived from conformity is fragile, whereas confidence grounded in integrity is sustaining, a distinction that speaks to broader cultural pressures placed on young women to perform success at the expense of connection. Jillian's participation in this reconciliation challenges the stereotype of the irredeemable popular antagonist, offering instead a portrait of a young woman shaped by insecurity as much as ambition, and this reframing invites empathy without excusing harm. The episode's emphasis on mutual affirmation functions as a corrective to narratives that depict queer women's relationships as competitive or scarce, illustrating instead how abundance can emerge when comparison is relinquished. By choosing a domestic setting for the climax, the series underscores the political significance of private spaces where women can exist without surveillance, reminding viewers that visibility does not always mean exposure, and that intimacy often flourishes away from the gaze that demands explanation. The collective moment shared by Sabina, Jillian, and Avi is thus less about resolution than about recalibration, a reorientation toward values that privilege care over control. And this recalibration resonates as a quiet act of resistance within a culture that frequently commodifies women's relationships. In presenting reconciliation as possible but not guaranteed, the episode avoids sentimentalism, acknowledging the labor involved in rebuilding trust and the risk inherent in reopening oneself to those who have caused harm. This honesty enhances the narrative's credibility, inviting viewers to reflect on their own experiences of forgiveness and boundary setting. The thematic through-line connecting popularity, identity, and intimacy becomes fully legible here, as the episode demonstrates how the pursuit of social capital can obscure authentic desire, and how relinquishing that pursuit creates space for more meaningful connection. The series' commitment to portraying lesbian relationships with seriousness and respect is evident in its refusal to rush this process, allowing silence, hesitation, and reflection to occupy the screen alongside dialogue. As the episode concludes, it leaves viewers not with spectacle, but with a sense of earned calm, suggesting that the true measure of growth lies in the capacity to choose empathy, even when pride resists it. This ending reinforces the broader message that becoming visible to oneself is an ongoing practice, one that requires continual negotiation between who we have been taught to be and who we are becoming. And by situating this practice within a lesbian narrative, Popular affirms that queer women's stories are not peripheral but central to understanding intimacy, resilience, and ethical connection in contemporary culture. Ultimately, the episode affirms growth through accountability, compassion, patience, and humanity.